John Henry is a film starring Terry Crews, who plays the titular character of John Henry, and it is about an ex-criminal who gets thrown back into this criminal world because a girl that was being held captive by a gang, she gets loose, she ends up falling upon John Henry, and the next thing you know, he's trying to protect her, and there's a lot of intertwining twists that are going on between him and the gang members. And first and foremost, I have to say I'm going to jump into some spoilers in this one, because to talk about some of the things about this movie, I really need to dive into some of the things they reveal towards the latter end of the film. I think that Terry Crews as John Henry was okay. I thought he was pretty solid. I know him mostly as a comedic actor. I think he's fantastic in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I really liked him in all supporting roles. And he definitely wasn't the weakest part of the movie. He's very ominous as a character because he is such a big person. He plays this somber guy pretty well, but I don't know if it really falls into his wheelhouse. He's such a charismatic and likable guy who's able to just really pop off screen, and making him so, cold and quiet and just, it just doesn't, I don't know if it worked perfectly for me. I have to say, in the last half of the film, when he really goes off, he does a pretty solid job there. Now, the one character in this movie that I found to be absolutely ridiculous is Hell, who is played by Ludacris. He is the leader of this gang, and it's so over the top and ridiculous that I think it just undercuts the whole vibe of the whole movie, the whole atmosphere. We were building this serious thriller, this crime thriller. He has this bedazzled jaw that's made out of metal because John Henry accidentally shot him when they were younger, and it looks really bad. The prosthetic doesn't look good. And when you're trying to have a serious monologue back and forth in a movie that feels like it wants to be serious on its face, it just didn't work for me, especially the last part of the movie. We're supposed to have this emotional impact, this clashing of the two sides of the same coin, the two people that separated when they're younger to do a more virtuous route, to be a crime boss on the other hand. The building of that relationship and that conflict never got there, first off, and then just the way that he looks and acts in the film, I don't know, it didn't work for me. Another thing that I found kind of odd about this movie, it's something that disappointed me a little bit, and I know you shouldn't judge a film by its cover, and I may have literally done that when I went to watch this movie. I know John Henry is the folklore myth. Him, hammering through to beat that drilling machine to get through the other side. I remember the story when I was a kid. I remember seeing the animated short about it, and I thought we were going to get this movie about the resilience of the human spirit, about trying to triumph under, all adversity, and we didn't really get that. This really had nothing to do with that folk myth, because, I don't know, his name's John Henry. They used the John Henry song, that rhyme, that hymn that you remember, that you hear and you associate with that folklore, but it really has nothing to do with that. He does have a hammer. He has it at the end of the movie, and he kills people with it, and he does drop it at the end, they come full circle with that at the end of the movie, but it really doesn't have anything to do with that. And I thought that the writing in the movie wasn't fantastic. It doesn't give the characters a lot to work with. There's a lot of weird asides and monologues about characters that really underscore the tone of the film. It feels like it wants to be pretty serious, especially in the beginning half of the movie. And then it gets kind of ridiculous towards the end. The characters are almost caricatures. They almost are like a parody of a gangster film that you would imagine from the early 2000s. When you want it to be this serious, gritty street drama, something that you really want to dive into it and get an idea of this character that's on the outs and this conflict that arises, and it doesn't do that. It tries to undercut that multiple times with some really goofy characters. There's one where these two guys are in a car towards the end of the film, and they're having a back and forth, and there's a reference about the human centipede, and it's a little comedic. There's some comedic moments in this movie, but it just feels so misplaced with characters that you don't know or care about. I do appreciate a good human centipede reference, though. Another thing that I noticed when I was watching is that it does feel very low budget at times. There were times, especially dealing with the violent aspects of the movie, that it just looked cheap. It looked like a movie that was rushed to be put out, and I don't know, it just showed at times. I would have liked if the characters had a little more depth to them. It feels like a lot of them didn't really get any moments to shine. John Henry himself does have some interesting flashbacks. It uses some, found footage, like family footage style of filming for a little bit to show him when he was younger, to understand what he went through and got him to where he is, and some of his conflicts that arise with Ludacris, who's his cousin who plays Hell, and you get a little bit there, but that's the only way you really get any character growth with him, is just with the backstory thrown in with some footage there. Though I did like the creative breakup of using those different filming styles. So at the end of the day, I was pretty underwhelmed with this one. I honestly have to give it a 2 out of 10. I hate to bash on films like this, but I just couldn't find a lot to like about it. It didn't feel like it had a lot of messaging. The conflict never felt merited, and it had a pretty slow pace for me in the middle section of the film that never felt like a payoff. The ending didn't feel like a great payoff like I was supposed to feel about this character, about any of the characters. So overall, I thought it was pretty disappointing. But please let me know if you enjoyed this movie. I would like to hear what you thought about it, because I'm always interested to hear what people like about movies that I didn't like, or movies that are universally panned, because maybe I missed something. Maybe I missed some of the messaging there. But for me, just something that just didn't quite work for me. I think that Terry Crews is a solid actor. I think he's a great comedic actor, and I would love to see him more in these serious roles because he is quite a presence, and he does have the ability to be very serious. And I would like to see him in these kind of very serious movies later on in his career. So remember to like and subscribe and leave those comments down below. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.